Welcome back to Sommelier, your tastemaker for every little thing. I'm Bria, and today we're talking about fragrances. Okay, so story time with me. I was never much of a fragrance girly, I'm gonna be very perfectly honest with you. So my entire life until just a few years ago, I would go to the store and I would smell the fragrances like at the department store, whatever, and I just felt they were too overpowering and just not me. I feel like fragrance is so specific to the person, and nothing I had ever really smelled really felt like it should be on my body. It really felt like it was an essence of myself, and I stopped trying. So I was going with Old Faithful from Bath & Body Works that I'd used since high school all the way up until my 20s when I met a guy and we started dating, and I had sprayed what I had on and he was like, "Hey, what are you wearing?" And I said, "Oh, this is from Bath & Body Works," and I showed him the bottle and he goes, let's go shopping." And I was like, "Well, what's wrong with what I'm wearing right now?" He goes, "Honestly, it's kind of basic." And you know, I could not let that stand. Basic and me? No. So he and I went to duty free because we were gonna take a trip anyway in the airport, and he and I picked out this one, Daisy by Marc Jacobs, the Eau Fraiche. And I absolutely love it. It was the very first big girl perfume I had ever purchased, and I wore that thing to death. I thought it was such a perfect fit for me. And funny story, I have a friend a couple years after I bought this perfume, I have a really close friend who I've known my entire life, shout out to you, KM, who bought me the limited edition version of this fragrance for my 29th birthday right here. And she has no idea about this story. Hopefully this is the first time, I think this is the first that she'll be hearing it, but she bought me the exact same perfume because she said when she smelled it, it made her think of me. So y'all, if you want to know me a little bit better, go ahead and get Daisy by Marc Jacobs. Anyway, we're going to talk more about fragrances and how you can find your own personal fragrance. Like, I was very lucky to have people in my life help start me on a journey to find fragrances that align with my personality. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how you might do the same thing. We're going to talk about what fragrances are. We're going to talk about the difference between fragrances you might smell. We're going to talk about some of my more high-end fragrances, some of my everyday fragrances, some ways that you can break up fragrances by season. I always feel that every person should have a fragrance for the season: summer, fall, winter, spring. And we're also going to talk about what some of the, I guess, tasting notes or smelling notes, you're going to see the similarities between this and wine a lot, are inside of the bottle. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm super excited. So let's get right into it. Fragrances and what they are. So very basically, fragrances are alcohol, but not the alcohol that you drink, kind of like isopropyl alcohol. You may hear sometimes people talk about using a perfume or a fragrance to help disinfect a wound. I read about that for the first time in Priyanka Chopra's memoir that I was reading a couple years ago. And the reason why you can use perfumes to disinfect a room, because the majority of what's in there is just isopropyl alcohol. Do not drink it, but it's for, like, you can use it to clean things. In addition to that are just essences, like oils. Basically that's what gives it the smell of the perfume itself, different oils, and also like mixtures and compounds that make it easy to dry onto the skin. So you're not just spraying yourself with liquid. It's things that dry onto the skin, and also things that last longer on the skin. So that's what perfumes are writ large, those three things: alcohol, essential oils, and then different compounds that they use to make sure that it dries and stays on the skin. The percentage of essential oils that are inside of the bottle determine how strong a fragrance is gonna be or how long it's gonna stick onto your skin. There are 5 different types of perfume. So I'm gonna start from the lowest concentration to the highest. There's Eau Fraiche, so that's the lowest concentration. I think it has 1 to 3% essential oils. It's gonna be the lightest version. Oh, and even before I talk about that, you can usually tell how strong a fragrance is because it's written directly on the bottle. This is an example of a fragrance I have, and you'll see right here, it says that it's an Eau de Perfume. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so first there's Eau Fraiche. I cannot pronounce French words very well, but Eau Fraiche, that's 1 to 3% concentration. That's the lowest that you can get. There's Eau de Cologne. So you may hear this referred to as cologne. It's a concentration of perfume where it's 1 step above Eau Fraiche. It's 1 to 5%, so it's a little bit stronger and it's gonna last a little bit longer. There's Eau de Toilette. Those are 5 to 15%. Eau de Toilette, that's 5 to 15% concentration. Again, a little bit stronger. Above that is Eau de Parfum. Eau de Parfum is 15 to 20%. Again, we're getting pretty strong here. And then finally there's Perfume. So that's gonna be 20 to 40% concentration. And let me tell you something, they are strong. I have a Perfume. the only one I own, Delina Exclusive. This thing is amazing. It retails at $375 a bottle. And let me tell you something, it is worth every penny. Never thought I would say that. Smelled it in a department store and knew I had to have it. Amazing. This thing right here. But it is extremely strong. I spray it and it really, you really know that it's there, but it smells amazing. So you want to be really careful. Anyway, how can you tell what category perfume it is? It's usually written right on the bottle, or if you look up the smelling notes on the website, or when you purchase it on the back of the bottle, it'll tell you what type of a perfume it is. So where on the skin do you want to put perfume? You may see people putting it behind the ear or on the chest. Basically, you want to put the perfume in different parts of your body that produce heat. That's what really makes the perfume activate, and they call those pulse points. Those pulse points can be places where your pulse can be easily felt. So that's like your neck, behind the knees, which you can if you want to, on the wrists. And just different places on your body where you tend to get a little bit warmer. I tend to spray it on my chest and also on my hair. Hair is an awesome place to put your fragrances because it helps diffuse inside of the hair, but be very careful. You don't want to put that drying alcohol directly onto your scalp. That will be very bad and drying for your scalp, so I do not recommend that. But if you've got really long hair or really short hair or just hair period, hair is an awesome way to let the fragrance diffuse throughout your body. When you spray perfume on pulse points, it's a really, really great way to make sure that perfume stays on your body without having to like reapply throughout the day and also put on an excessive amount. So you want to really try to put it on a pulse point, an area of your body where you're going to be a little bit warmer so it can stay on your body all day. That's what I wanted to make sure I said to y'all. Let's talk about some fragrance categories. So officially in the fragrance industry, you're gonna see all fragrances broken up to about 4 categories. The first is floral, the next is woody, the next is oriental, and finally there is fresh. So those are the 4. So let me give you some examples. So floral, stuff that has to do with flowers, jasmine, rose, gardenia, lavender, those are all examples of floral notes inside of a perfume. Next is woody. So think warm, earthy smells, sandalwood, cedar, oud. Those are all examples of woody scents. Next is what they call oriental scents. So that's sensuous. So amber, patchouli, vanilla, musk. These are all examples of oriental perfume fragrances, fragrance categories. And then finally there's fresh. So citrus, green, water. Like think things that you want to take a bite out of, things that are like super duper fresh feeling. Those are like the official categories. Me personally, I find that to be a little bit unclear when I'm like evaluating fragrances for myself. So what I do is I break up fragrances into seasons. So we're gonna pull this big old card over here so I can show you guys all of my seasonal fragrances. Just stuff that I feel like is appropriate for summer, stuff for winter, stuff for fall, and stuff for spring. Right now we're in fall, so I'm gonna definitely show my hand a little bit on some of my favorite fall fragrances, but just stuff for you to smell and consider as you continue to find your own signature fragrance. So something I want to do, just so you can see an example of what I'm talking about, is show you the tasting notes of this guy, my very first big girl perfume, Daisy by Eau Fraiche. If you look at the website, which I'm going to put up over here, you'll see that the main taste or the main scent notes, or the main accords is what they call, are fruity, sweet, green, floral, violet, powdery, fresh, and citrus. And you can see here that it's got like the levels of each here. I'm gonna say what I've told you guys before about tasting cinnamon and patchouli and and alcohols. If you have never smelled any of these things, it's going to be very difficult for you to pick up the smell of them when you're smelling a perfume, because your senses are going to be really overwhelmed with all the things that you're smelling at the same time oftentimes. So go ahead and take each individual thing that you see listed in the fragrance notes, smell them so you can recognize them inside of the fragrance. Same thing I told you about tasting different tasting notes. You got to taste some of these things. If you've never tasted dried apricots or raisins or grapes from a certain area, you're not going to be able to recognize them inside of what you're drinking. So do your best to find them, taste them one at a time. And here's a pro tip that I forgot to mention in the episode. If you are tasting things, let's say you're at a winery or at a tasting, you're going to want to drink sparkling water in between tastings because it cleanses your palate. And the same thing goes when you're in fragrances for coffee beans. You may have noticed that there's these little coffee beans in the fragrance sections of the department stores. That's so if you're smelling a bunch of fragrances, you can clear your fragrance palette so you can fully appreciate what it is that you're smelling. Same thing, sparkling water when you're going to taste at wine. So a little fact and an interesting little parallel. So who are these people that are making perfumes out in the world? If you're curious, like who is responsible for finding these scents, figuring out what goes in the bottle, figuring out what complements what, and they are actually perfumers. Perfumers to me are like the sommeliers of the fragrance world. They go out in the world, they sniff things. There's actually a French movie that I'm gonna find for you guys that talks about the life of a perfumer in France, where you smell things and you bring different notes on what you're smelling and you label them. And it's really, really challenging, as you likely can guess, to identify tastes and smells like in the world. That's why being a sommelier can be so difficult, because of that notorious blind taste test, because you have to recognize the taste in your mouth without looking at them. Very similar thing with the sense of smell. To be able to smell something without looking at it is really, really challenging. But yeah, perfumers. They are the sommeliers of the perfume and fragrance world. Now let's talk about summer, fall, winter, spring, my own personal collection, and some fragrances that I have absolutely loved as I've gone through my fragrance journey these past few years. I'm gonna start with summer. So the fragrances that I feel like are especially summery, when I bought them, I thought of the summertime, is number one, my newest fragrance, or the large size of it. It just came back into stock like at the beginning of October, is Kay Ali's The Wedding Silk Santal. This thing is amazing. It came out a year ago, absolutely gangbusters. I bought the miniature version of it because I wasn't sure I wanted to invest $100 into something I had never smelled before. I smelled it, wanted it, sold out for an entire year. It came back and it is just as enticing a smell as it was when I first bought it a year ago. So if you are thinking about buying it, buy it. I absolutely love it. I know that the creator of this bought it for her to celebrate her wedding. I'm assuming she wore it on her wedding day. But personally, it reminds me of being open and free, and it just feels, honestly, this is like an everyday special occasion wear for me. It doesn't have to be in the summer, but I just reminds me of the summer when I bought it. Next, another Kay Ali fragrance, Vanilla 28. I feel like this is an extremely popular fragrance. It's a fan favorite. I know I wear it all the time and I layer it on top of different things that I'm smelling. Specifically, my favorite thing to layer it with is this guy. It is, excuse me, this guy. It's Eden, a Juicy Apple #1. I absolutely love it. It smells like apples, and I love apples. And I like to layer it with a vanilla to add a little bit of a boom. Absolutely love it. Two of my favorites for really year round, but it reminds me of the summertime, and that's when I bought it to add to my summertime collection. Next, something else that reminds me of summertime is Sundays by Byredo. Absolutely love it. Beautiful fragrance. Smells so good. It just reminds me of light. And to be perfectly honest with you, some of my summertime and springtime fragrances, they mix. So I would definitely wear this in the springtime, or just when I'm feeling a little bit lighter, a little bit freer, I'm outside a bit more. And then finally, this one, this is Daisy Love by Marc Jacobs, part of the Daisy collection, my very first, perfume. I like this a lot. It feels incredibly romantic to me. It has these beautiful notes of, I don't know, but it just smells great. I really like it. It reminds me of being outside in the summertime and just being out with friends and smelling good, and I don't know, it's a vibe. I love this one as well. So those are all my summertime fragrances. I'm gonna actually switch over to spring because they are very similarly related in my mind, like spring to summer. So my #1, absolutely hands down bar none, spring fragrance is this one. It's from Replica. It's called Under the Lemon Tree. I love it. I feel like it smells so free. It reminds me of Positano, probably because of all the lemons, and this smells like lemons. I love it. It makes me feel so happy and free. Of course, we've got my #1 I talked about a little bit earlier, Daisy from Marc Jacobs. Next is Clean from the Reserve Scent Skin. I don't find I wear this as often, to be perfectly honest with you. It reminds me a lot of my mom. I love my mother. She's the most stylish and fashionable woman I know. But I think that's why I gravitated towards it. I'm like, oh, this feels like family. This feels familiar. This feels like home. And I love spraying of it. So when I think of her, so love you, mommy, if you're watching this. And then I've got some testers. I've got Valentino's Donna, Born in Roma. I find this to be, I know this is gonna be debatable, very springtime. It's a little bit more of a serious take, but I love it. I've got the miniature version of Gucci by Flora. This is a really, really nice, extremely popular fragrance. I should probably buy the big one, but I haven't got myself to do it yet. But yeah, Gucci's Flora, beautiful fragrance. And I actually just got this a few weeks ago. It's Rare Beauty's hair perfume. You're supposed to spray it in your hair. It reminds me of like vacation in summertime, and I think it's beautiful, but it also is like, to me, a very springtime vibe. But again, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Disclaimer, you can wear whatever you want at any time you want. This is extremely personal to me and my personal preferences, but please wear whatever you want, whenever you want, whatever you want, whenever you want, because no one is judging or probably gonna ask. But this is just ways that I've been able to organize my own collection. Yeah, and that's what we're doing. We're diving into my collection. Anyway, continuing on to the season that we are currently in, we have fall. So I'm gonna actually start with this one. This is Tom Ford's Soleil Neige. This is a sparkling, like it's a perfume, but it also has a sparkle to it. Here, I'll show you. I'll pour it on my chest. First, come on. You'll see that it has a bit of a shine to it. I feel like this is a beautiful, it smells really nice, but it also has a little bit of, you know, shimmer to it. So just know that it's not like a regular perfume, but I find it to be absolutely beautiful. It diffuses throughout the day because I put it on a pressure point for me, and it's really nice and shiny. It makes me look really shiny, which I love. So yeah, that's Tom Ford Soleil Neige. A favorite of mine. I love wearing it on special occasions, and also when I'm wearing stuff like this where my décolletage is showing, I can add a little shimmer to my look and smell really good. But yes, this one next is from Nest. It's Golden Nectar. As you can see, it says Eau de Parfum, as we talked about earlier. It tells you exactly what it is and exactly how much concentration is in it. This I wear a lot to work. It reminds me of being at work. It smells so good and so delicious and so welcoming, but also for some reason feels a little professional to me. But love this, wear it a lot to work. Smells amazing. It makes me feel captivated and taken in. So that's another fall fragrance to me. Next, we've got, this is my everyday, I wear it all the time fragrance right now. It is extremely popular. Once again, it is Vanilla Skin by Fleur. Man, I actually smelled this when I was leaving the gym, and it smelled so good. I was like, is that a candle? To the lady at the front. She's like, no girl, it's this. I got it from Sephora right next door. I said, no way. So I went, I got it. I smelled it for myself in the sample size, and woo, I loved it so much. It was so me. It felt like a perfect descriptor of me and who I am at this time in my life. Had to buy it, wear it almost every day. Love this. Absolutely beautiful fragrance. Love it. Next, that reminds me of, the next thing that reminds me a lot of fragrances is Nest. This is from Nest New York Seville Orange. This is a perfume oil. So far, I've showed you a lot of sprays, but perfume can come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. This one comes in a roller. So as you can see right here, it's like a, you know, you roll it onto your skin. Here, you can't really see it, but you roll it onto your skin, and you can see that the fragrance is out and it diffuses. You don't want to put it on the side of your thing here, but you got to put it on your pressure point, and it smells so good. Ooh, it smells like oranges. Anyway, I love it. It reminds me of fall and the changing of the seasons and just different, more musky fall, leaves falling, orange things. That's just the association my brain makes with it, but love it. This is Seville Oranges. Next, this is another one of my signature fragrances. It is Rouge Trafalgar from Dior. I love this to wear in the evening. It reminds me of like a really nice fancy event. If I want to feel really mysterious and inviting and sensual, Rouge Trafalgar from Dior. Christian Dior Paris. Anyway, love this one. And finally, something that I've been wearing all the time this summer. I know I have it listed in my fall fragrances. It's probably because it has such strong notes of vanilla, but this is one of my favorite fragrances. I wear it all of the time. As you can see, it's almost gone. It's Dulce by Rosie Jane. So another really fan favorite. I found out about it because, again, I bought a sampler set of vanilla fragrances from Sephora, and it was in there, and I went out to do my usual errands, and someone was like, oh my gosh, Bria, you smell so good. What is that beautiful, soft vanilla scent? I said, oh, actually, I just tried a sample set of this one. I guess I better get the full size. And I did. That was a few years ago, but I've absolutely loved it ever since. Something else, oh, and actually, let's close it out before I talk about something else. So these are my winter fragrances. Number one, I talked about this earlier, my favorite fragrance, my most expensive fragrance in my collection, and the one I am so glad I bought every single time is Delina Exclusive from Parfums de Marly. They make absolutely beautiful fragrances. They are extremely expensive, but like I said earlier, worth the price. This is nice. It reminds me a lot of Valentine's Day. That's probably why I have it like in winter in the back of my mind, but any special occasion where I'm really trying to bring the va-voom, I'll wear this. Next up, we have I Don't Need a Prince by My Side to Be a Princess by Kilian. You may see it a lot a couple years ago. A lot of the influencers were talking about it. It smells very marshmallowy. It smells really yummy. It smells like I want to make some s'mores and sit next to somebody by a nice fire. I love this. I love layering this with other vanilla scents that I own, and I just feel like it was totally worth the price because I wear it all the time. It smells amazing. It makes me feel good too. And finally, I know this is a cult favorite. I was just watching an interview of Charlie XCX a couple days ago, and she said that she cannot travel anywhere without this. This is Byredo's Bibliothèque. Actually, I was doing a informal interview with somebody who was interested in working at the company that I work at, and she was talking about fragrances that she ordered, and I was like, what's Byredo? She's like, yeah, I bought their sample set from Byredo. I'm like, oh, what's Byredo? She's like, oh girl, you gotta know about it. And she sent this to me, and I bought their sampler set once again, and I smelled this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so different and unique and like to me musky, it's so perfect. I bought it, have not regretted it since. I love wearing it. I feel like the The scent that it leaves inside of my scarves in particular is so welcoming and cozy and inviting, and I love it. So that's a tour of my collection. Before we close out, I want to talk about some of the most popular celebrity fragrances because there are no shortage of those. I know Ariana Grande has one. I know Billie Eilish has one. Pretty much all your favorite celebrities have their own, not pretty much, but many of your favorite celebrities have their own signature fragrances. I want to talk about two that I bought that I love. So first, no surprises here. Rihanna's perfume. It is a grown woman perfume, okay? All the perfumes I just listed out to you are grown woman perfumes, but this one in particular I love. I wore it when I was at this event called Max that Adobe hosts when I was working with Kevin Hart. I wore this. He didn't say anything about it, just my coworkers in the back were like, oh, that's such a different and unique smell. And I was like, thank you so much. But something else I haven't mentioned is something that I love about fragrances. It kind of really encapsulates memories for me. So now every time I wear this perfume, it reminds me of the time I got to meet Kevin Hart on stage at Adobe Max because fragrances contain memories, which is another reason why I love them so much. Anyway, the next fragrance that I want to talk about, celebrity fragrance that I totally think is worth the money. So this one is included. It actually even comes in a lotion that she sells on her website. It's like 80 bucks, but I bought it for my mom for Christmas a few years ago. She has not stopped talking about it. She absolutely loves it. And I love wearing it too on like a special occasion, a nice, rich, thick lotion that smells amazing. Anyway, the next thing, anyone that knows me knows that me and Beyonce were right here. And yes, I did buy the Saint Noir last year, 2023, when the Renaissance tour was coming out. And it smells like honey, which makes sense because, you know, Sweet Honey Buckin' for Cowboy Carter and Pure Honey were very much the vibe. And it smells great. This is another one where my mom was like, Bria, what is this? Where did you get this scent from? And I said, oh mom, this is the Beyonce fragrance. She went ahead and bought herself one too, so she wears it as well. But again, totally worth the money. This is an excellent standalone fragrance, but I also do love layering it with different things to make the smell a little bit more nuanced because it's so distinct and beautiful. But again, totally worth the money if you're thinking about getting it. I'm a really big fan and it complements my collection incredibly well, in my opinion. So before I close out and let everyone, you know, go about your day, and some other things I want you to keep in mind as you look for your signature fragrance is fragrances smell different to everybody, first and foremost. I may have provided some things that smell really good to me and have a lot of really warm associations for me, but everything is gonna smell different to everybody. So I really wanna encourage you to try as many fragrances as you can. Do not get discouraged like I was at the ages of 19, 20, 21, 22, where I was just like, this is too much, I don't like it. I would recommend spending the $50 to $60 if it's in your budget to try a fragrance set. You can try a bunch of them. Not everything's gonna be a slam dunk, but for me, all the fragrances I just listed to you, they were kind of like right out the gate slam dunks to me. I was like, oh my God, I love it. I want it, give it to me. There have been fragrances, like recently I bought a fragrance and I liked it in the store, but I've been smelling a lot of things. There's a lot going on. I bought it, I smelled it at home and like, honestly, not worth the price. Because for me, whenever I pick a fragrance, especially something that's gonna be on my body and represent me to the world, it has to be like a slam dunk, like, oh my God, I cannot live without this type of vibe. So that's the feeling I wanna encourage you to look for. And it does not happen often. Like, as you can see, I have a lot of fragrances because I've tried a lot of things, and it's a really great metaphor for wine. Like, you may not be a person that likes wine, but you got to try a lot of wines sometimes to be able to find what you like. So go tasting, and in that same breath, if you're looking for a signature fragrance, you got to smell a bunch of stuff to find something that suits you. And know that there is stuff that suits you. You just have to be patient and look for it, or work with people in your life that love you to find something that feels like your essence. Yes. Also, something else I want to say is that fragrances smell different on different people. It's something about the chemicals of your skin, or like the oils you use, what you shower with, what perfume, what other things that just happen to go on your skin, even what you do for a living. If you're outside all day or in around very highly fragrant situations, that can sometimes rub off on you. But things are going to smell different on different people. So all the fragrances I just listed to you, if you go and you put them on your skin or your body, and you're like, oh my gosh, Bria, this is totally not my thing, or oh my gosh, you totally lied to me. Everything's gonna smell different on different people, which is why it's really important for you to try as much as you can to see how it diffuses. There's some stuff I'm sure that I was not a fan of that you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is such a great fit for me. So please, and I encourage you to remember that these things are unique to you as a person. So try them and know that it's gonna be different depending on who you are and what your vibe is. Last thing I want to say, I should have talked about this earlier, but fragrances have different like I call them top notes, middle notes, and then finishing notes, very similar to wine. Your top note is like what you immediately smell after you smell it. You're like the first thing that hits your nose. The middle note is things that are going to be a little bit more subtle in the middle of what you're smelling. And then the bottom note is like stuff that's going to be left behind in like your scarf. So like you sprayed it, you had a great day, you put the scarf up or something, and a couple days or a couple hours later, you put the scarf back on, you still smell the lingering smell of the fragrance. That can be sometimes completely different or extremely complementary to the top note that you originally smelled. So keep that in mind. Also keep in mind it's gonna smell different, like I said, on your skin versus on the paper when you're smelling it in the store. So keep in mind to always smell on the skin, particularly on a pulse point, so that you understand what the fragrance is really smelling like. Yeah. And that's it. Please let me know if you end up finding your signature fragrance from this video. I really, really want people to enjoy the journey of finding a fragrance in the way that I have so enjoyed the journey of finding my own signature fragrance, as you could tell from all the fragrances I now own. But please, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe to get more content from Sommelier. I want to hear in the comments what you like, what you didn't. Just tell me if this is helpful or not. Anyway, thank you all so much. I'll see y'all next time. Bye.